First, we've got Barry Honig. Barry is the co-founder, CEO, and president of TruckPay. He's responsible for designing the company's products, systems, workflows, and business analysis. He's also responsible for investor relations and running day-to-day operations. Barry holds 4 patents, with 2 more pending, so pretty impressive for all his innovative work in the bulk logistics, e-ticketing, and scale management technology. He's got over 40 years of work experience. He's also the president of Honig International, a well-known management consulting and executive search firm. Barry's knowledge of finance and payments has allowed him to bring a unique perspective to the world of bulk logistics technology. He's worked as senior technology manager for firms like Morgan Stanley, where he ran the foreign exchange, commodity, and risk management teams. Barry is the graduate of Columbia University School of Engineering and is also an adjunct professor of finance at NYU. So very impressive resume, to say the least. Barry was also the first blind graduate of the world-renowned Bronx High School of Science, and he strongly believes in giving back to the community, and he serves on the board of Lighthouse Guild International and a board member of Freedom Guide Dogs. Please welcome Barry.
I think I'm going to speak from here. By the way, this is Xander, who, if those of you haven't met him, Xander is today the scale dog. So Xander, why don't you lay down and you just be a good boy. And I know it's been tempting for many people to want to pet him. So first I want to thank Chris and for inviting me to do the talk today, Paul, and Matt, and everyone, Michelle, everyone who's on the board for all the work they do at NISA. We're really happy to be a part of it now. This is our first conference, and we have joined and are very happy. Posted the logo on our website already, so very happy to be involved. So, in every good talk, you have to have a couple of jokes, right? A couple of icebreakers. So sitting and thinking about what to say as an opener for a scale conference or a scale talk was not easy. I consider myself to be a reasonably funny guy, and I sat and thought about this and said, okay, what am I going to do? So what do you do these days? You go to ChatGPT and you go to the cloud, which is the point of the talk, and you ask for some truck scale jokes. So why did the truck scale owner quit his job? Because he weighed the pros and cons, and the cons outweighed the pros. I don't blame me, blame the cloud. Okay, why did the truck scale break up with his girlfriend? Because she was just too much of a burden to bear, it was too much weight to bear. And finally, why did the truck scale have to go on a diet? I don't like this one, actually. But because he had to weigh in too many times. So there you have it. So that's one of the first great uses of the cloud. You can get groaner truck scale jokes. Now, all joking aside for 1 second, so this next quote I love. I actually have it on my website. I'm sure many of you have probably seen it, but it always reminds me that our industry is probably about the only industry today that actually can find its roots all the way back to a biblical commandment, right? To not have dishonest lengths, volumes, and weights, and to have honest scales and measures. And I think it really speaks to what we do and how important it is and how serious it is, because you think about today and everything that goes on in society today, and to realize that we actually have something that goes back basically to the beginning of modern civilization that we have. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. All right. So Chris told you a little bit my background. I actually hate talking about myself, so I'll do very little of it. I prefer talking about the things that we do. But yeah, so I've come to this industry about 7.5 years ago. Actually had come to the industry from the financial services world, where I spent a lot of time building complex trading systems, electronic trading, risk management, all these sorts of things, and got into initially the fleet management business, specializing actually in aggregates. And what happened in that space is that what we were trying to do is to do e-ticketing. My nephew had asked me to help him buy a dump truck, and so I bought him a dump truck down in Houston, told me all about paper tickets, started learning about the industry, and said, you know, this is a very similar problem. I think we could make an impact here. So we started doing building some of the first original e-ticketing software, initially for aggregates. And initially what we did is we did it for stuff on a per load basis. So we were just worrying about counting loads because that's what the initial kind of customers were worried about. And then of course we come upon, you know, a job where all of a sudden now you have to do something about scales. And we'll get into that, what we did about that. But as Chris was saying, we have 4 patents, a couple of pending. One of the more recent interesting ones that we got, and you'll understand why we were able to get that with our virtual kiosk technology, is the idea of being able to weigh semi-autonomous and autonomous vehicles. And you know, not too long ago, everybody that was a far out, Jetsons, if you like, kind of a idea. But of course, as everybody knows now, autonomous vehicles are real. They're happening, and we actually have the means by which to be able to make that happen just with software and not with having to have a lot of cameras and hardware. And we'll talk about that a bit more, but that's something, and actually even be able to conduct financial transactions through autonomous or semi-autonomous vehicles. Okay, so coming back to what I was saying about the fleet management side of what we were doing, so then we come to the idea that now we have to do something about scales, because we have to be able to connect to scale indicators. We have to be able to grab the weights. But what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to introduce or have to use paper tickets. If we were trying to do e-ticketing, and if we were trying to eliminate paper, then I wanted to go the full way, the full Monty, if you will. So then we started learning about what do we do about that. Well, of course, everybody here knows you have a scale indicator. It produces whatever string you like, contact, whatever it is. And then the question is, how do we get that onto a mobile device? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do that without having to rely on a scale house server or a kiosk to do it? And so that is kind of what the essence of what we ended up doing and what we ended up building. So what happened is that so now we ended up calling our platform MyTruckScales, and that became an extraction, if you will, initially of our fleet management system. Now, as it turns out, that as any of you know who develop technology or build any kind of systems, that when you take an idea and you say, okay, here's just a little something that we can do and put it out there, well, several years later, it's grown into a huge platform with payments and so forth. And I'm going to get into that very shortly. So yes, so we have MyTruckScales. Now, the point of MyTruckScales is to not only eliminate the need for paper, but once you, of course, have the weight, then you have to be able to talk about what am I going to do about workflow? How am I going to define workflow? So what happened is that we had, of course, learned about kiosks and being new to the industry and how it all works. And we looked at the kiosk, and I certainly mean no offense to anyone who does kiosks, but we looked at it and said, okay, this is a data entry terminal. This is a terminal. This is something that basically is used to collect data, whatever it is you like, truck ID, material list, whatever it is. So, we looked at this and said, well, nowadays, why does one necessarily have to have a Windows 10, a Windows 11, whatever it is, machine with whatever type of display that you like? Can something else be done? And so what we realized is that through the cloud, and that's the point, that this only really can happen through the cloud and mobile technology, that yeah, there is something else you could actually do. And the point here is that is a substitute for having a physical kiosk, you have something very powerful. This. You have a mobile smartphone or a tablet is an incredibly, incredibly powerful computer, right? It has powerful cameras. It can scan barcodes. It can connect via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, internet. It can do, and has a fair amount of compute power these days as well. So we thought, why not leverage the smart device that most drivers would have in their truck to be able to act as a substitute, an alternative, if you will, for a kiosk. Now, so that's what we did. But then we thought, okay, how are we going to do this? So we do it by basically allowing you to, the scale owner, to design on the web their workflow, whatever it is they want. They can describe a gross tear, gross only, whatever it is you'd like to do. And you can specify all of the type of attributes you want to collect. The truck ID, a list of materials, a purchase order number, a bill of lading, whatever you like, right? Because all of that data, we can have all of that data in the cloud. We can specify all of that data. We can collect it all, and we can, as we'll talk about in a little bit, we can integrate that. Since we're all working with APIs, application programming interfaces, we can do or integrate with any kind of an upstream or downstream system. So now, once you have your workflow defined, how is that going to work? So I defined it on the web, but now how is that going to get communicated to the driver at the scale? So one of the things we have got a patent for is the idea of this virtual kiosk, which basically allows you to do this and allows you to associate many of them with a scale. So now you have to have the idea of configuring a scale on the web, right? So now that's what that's basically have to do. But before I get to that, before I get into all those details, let me then stop for a second and say the following. Now, many of you here are scale manufacturers and sells kiosks and so forth. And so the thing is, you're probably saying, well, that's all cute and that's all novel, and isn't that nice, Barry? You come into the industry and you're making something that's going to replace a piece of equipment. But I would never want to take away someone's revenue, so we're going to substitute that with mailbox money. Or, if you like, money from the cloud, or going back to the biblical reference, to manna from heaven, if you will. So how does that work? So the way that works is that our software is basically is done as software as a service. And that many of you, I'm sure, have all types of streaming services, probably many that your kids have signed you up for, that you wish you didn't have to pay for, or that you look every month and you go, what the heck is this? I have like 6 versions of streaming my TV programs. So, but the thing is, for folks here who consider this as an alternative, that what we do is we're able to share that recurring revenue stream with people. And what it does is it frees up people to be able to say, if they want an alternative to a kiosk, if they don't want to have PC servers, if they don't want to have printers, et cetera, that this gives an alternative to doing it. So now, So now, coming back to the idea of the virtual kiosk, that we have this workflow that we have defined, where you can basically define anything you want. You can take the driver through an inbound, outbound weighment. You can have configure different pages. And the thing that's really cool about what we've done is that unlike having one particular type of programming that is set for a kiosk, because, and again, this is cloud, this is only possible because of cloud and mobile. What we're able to do is allow the scale owner to specify on a hauler by hauler or customer by customer, driver by driver basis, which workflow they are to see. So when the driver gets to the scale, because they're logged into the app, we know who they are, we know the scale, we know what the scale owner wants them in particular to see. And then what we do via a bunch of techno magic, we render that workflow on the driver's mobile device. We basically show them the kiosk that they are supposed to see. So that means the materials that they're supposed to be allowed to pick up or not pick up, pricing, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the key. And you can change these workflows, again, because it's the cloud, on the fly. So I can sit in a location in New Jersey, change the workflows, and have it affect a site in Kentucky in real time, with not having to go out to reprogram a device or computer, none of it. You don't have to worry about backups or anything. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. So in order to have these kiosks, you have to be able to, to configure your scale. So you have to be able to you have to be able to have the idea of how do I name my scale? I have to be able to tell where is the scale located? An IP address, and port numbers to identify the indicator. If I have cameras on it, we can control the cameras. As a matter of fact, what we can do actually is we can control any IoT that is connected to the scale. As long as it's IP addressable, we can control it right from the mobile device. Because what the mobile device allows us to do, in the case of the camera, for example, is it allows us to send a command right to the camera, take the image back to the mobile device, and then incorporate it as part of the e-ticket, and then send it to the cloud. Now this was really not possible, of course, without having cloud and without having really powerful smart devices to do all of this with. So what does this do now for the driver? For the driver, it's really, really key, because now we accomplish a couple of things for the driver. We are able now to keep the driver safely in the truck. So the driver can use their smart device, and they don't have to get out and go to a scale house. They don't have to lean out the window to touch a kiosk. They don't have to go bring in a paper slip, a bill of lading, or a load slip, or whatever it is, and come back to the truck and then drive and then come around again and drive around. They don't have to do any of it. They can do it all directly in their truck. So this improves both driver safety, which is incredibly important. It also greatly improves operational efficiency, because you're saving all that time of the driver getting in and out of the truck. And you have this great benefit of being able to give the driver and customize for the driver what they need and what they're supposed to have. So now that we have that, and we have the kiosk, and we have the scale, so then as I was talking about earlier, how to getting the weight, right? So the weight we get directly from the indicator. Now, of course, for many, many years, indicators have been connected to PC scales, scale house servers, and all kinds of other things. But what's novel about what we decided to do is the idea, and again, only possible because you're doing it on a mobile device, is to actually capture the weight directly on the device. So take it streaming, right? So whether if you have an old indicator and you just hook up something like a Moxa box or whatever, you put put a Wi-Fi, device on it, or if there's already Wi-Fi, if it's already putting information, the weights into the network, and there's Wi-Fi there, we can grab it from there. If you want a public static IP, we can grab it from there. You could do it or if it's a Wi-Fi enabled indicator, we can grab it from there. The point is that, again, you can now use smart devices to grab the weights, and that, coupled with the virtual kiosk, is what enables the ability to keep the driver safely in the truck, okay? And to improve the workflow and to give the dynamism that we provide. Because it's in the cloud, every interested party can see all of their data in real time. So if you were running this software, you could take your phone, open your phone, go to a browser, log onto your account, see every ticket as it's coming in, anywhere in the world, in real time. Okay? So that presents very powerful opportunity especially for folks who have multiple sites, et cetera. Now, the other thing, of course, that we're able to do is that if you have multiple scales at a site, or you want to link them together, we have the ability, of course, to link scales virtually together. So this is, again, brings to the flexibility. Well, so now, of course, once you have all of this information, as one likes to say in the aggregates business, you have to play nice in the sandbox. Another bad joke, that's mine, that's not ChatGPT's. So one of the things you have to do is you have to then have the possibility of integrating, taking data from upstream systems and pushing it to downstream systems. So that, for example, if someone comes in and they have a PO number, you want to put it in, you want to show them a workflow or a set of things to do with that PO number, we can do that, because since our system is all API based, using another API to talk to some other system, whether it's a NetSuite or an SAP, et cetera, it's no problem to do it. Once you have the weights and you have the workflow, then you want to be able to push that data now to, let's say, another system, maybe using a Sage Intacct, maybe using a Viewpoint, whatever platform you're using that you want to then push that data to so that you can now account for it. Okay? Again, makes life very easy to basically just be able to define an API endpoint, specify some credentials, and then have our system basically do the integration and the interfacing, and not have to worry about doing everything being, a custom integration or a custom system, because it's all generically configurable. Only possible because you're using flexible cloud architecture. So now what we have is this provides lots of flexibility in lots of areas. So that, for example, we talked about earlier about my background in payments. So one of the things in the pay and truck pay is the idea of the idea is to be able to incorporate digital payments into the whole scaling process. So that, for example, if you're going into a scrapyard and your peddler comes in, a lot of scrapyards, of course, keep tens and tens of thousands of dollars on hand in order to pay through ATM machines that they have, et cetera. Not particularly safe thing to do today. And so the ability to basically take the weighment and go from the weighment to either a digital payment on a virtual wallet or a Venmo or their debit card, etc. Incredibly powerful. It promotes not only the driver's safety, but also promotes the safety for, in that case, the scrapyard owner. Okay? And we were just actually at the ISRI convention in Nashville, and this is something that people really loved the idea of. It really promotes safety in a big way. If you go into a quarry, for example, and you're buying, stone and so forth, maybe you're a retail person, and you want to pay for it, we have the ability to allow you, just like you do in Uber, just like you do if you're going shopping on Amazon, whatever, put your credit card information into the system, and then we can automatically bill the credit card. We can, if you're doing account-based billing, we can do the account-based billing as well. Only, again, all generic, possible because of the cloud, possible because of mobile technology. And if you just want to use the scale, of course, without any kind of payments, you can have the scale as just for regular usage, just free. Just come in, do a weighment, go in and out, move the products, whatever materials you're moving, without any issue. The thing I didn't say that I really should point out here is that we are, as we like to describe it, we are scale agnostic. We work with everyone. For us, it doesn't matter. As long as you're weighing it and you have an indicator that can stream the weight, that's what we care about. That's all we need. Once we get the weight, we're good to go. So we're happy to work with everyone. We work with everyone, want to be everybody's friend, obviously. So that kind of, is, I guess, another differentiator for us, is that, again, because it's cloud and what we do, it makes it sort of generically kind of useful in lots of contexts. It has international capability. It's multi-metric, it's multilingual, and it's multi-currency, so it can be used in lots of contexts. Wherever the application is called for, it can be used. Sure. The scrapyard, which I just said about the pet. Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah. So that's what I was just saying about the ATMs, about armored trucks having to come into scrapyards all the time. Is that this is what is the big thing for safety for those folks. Oh, okay. She wants me to tell you this. She wants me to tell you the story. So there was a guy who we met at the ISRI convention when we told him about this, and he said, well, actually, what happened is he had $360,000 in cash at one of his facilities, and I guess people knew about it. Somebody came up to him, had a gun at his head. Basically, only by the grace of God, the guy pulled the trigger, the gun jammed, and the guy was, thank God, okay. That's why we met him. But that's an example that, if you didn't have the cash there, that wouldn't be an issue. Okay, so coming back to the international application. So that is one of the places we actually had first run this, interestingly, was in Tijuana, where we were at a scale in Tijuana. Stuff was moving from Tijuana to San Diego, and it was really kind of fun to have it, the app being used in Spanish on the mobile device, but yet the scale owner had done everything that they wanted to do in English on the web. So now one of the key things that's important is that now that you have all of the data, and you have the data sitting in the cloud, you have the possibility of doing every kind of data analytics that you want, and you can extract it, you play with it, do anything you want. We provide some reporting as one would expect to be able to get on such data. But the key is that now we can take that data and move it to anywhere else you want, as I was talking about, with the upstream and downstream systems, which can, be in the cloud or not be in the cloud, be wherever you want them to be. But the point of the matter is that you now have this ability to grab your data anywhere, and you don't have to sit and worry about how it's networked, how is it encrypted or not encrypted, because we're giving you multiple levels of encryption. We're taking advantage of Amazon's all the capability that they provide, and this is another really key point that I want to talk about. And this is the power of the cloud, whether or not you're doing scale management software or anything else, is that you now can you have companies like Amazon and Microsoft who have spent untold tens, hundreds of millions of dollars building tools that easily allow you to expand your capability through what's called like elastic load balancing, which allow you to encrypt your data, back up your data, have resiliency, all of the things that companies have traditionally have had to have either insourced or outsourced or a combination thereof, staffs to do for them. But now, companies like ours can do this easily by leveraging the power of the cloud and all of the tools that are at your disposal. I literally can spin up, I can have one of my DevOps guys literally spin up new machines in minutes, right? We can restore stuff. We can fail over from, if the eastern region's down, we can fail to the western region. To do all of that, if you're a company, or especially if you're a smaller company or a mom and pop, is prohibitively expensive. It's really hard to do. But when you're in the cloud, it's really no more than a few clicks away. So those are some of the main benefits for scale owners, is that they have all of this ability. A lot of times people are like, oh, I want to keep my data, at my scale house. I want to have it on my network. I feel safer that way. Anybody who if you think you're safer having your data sitting in a scale house, or in some other location, as opposed to sitting in the cloud with the levels of protection, encryption, security that I just talked about. For God's sakes, the NSA has it in the cloud. Companies like Capital One have moved their entire banking operations. They no longer have anything on-prem. It's all in the cloud. It's all in the cloud. And so this is the next evolution for our industry. So the industry, many of you, I don't have to tell you, you've been in it a lot longer than I have, but the history, the evolution of the industry from doing everything being paper, manual, to indicators, generating some digital output, to kiosks, etc. So now what we've done here and what we propose here is basically to take it the next step. To say that we have newer technology now, actually at this point smart devices are not so new, but to now start leveraging and going the next step. Let's leverage the mobile device, let's start leveraging the cloud, and let's move this industry forward to where it really should be, because it can go there now. Now, do we have all the answers? Absolutely not. Are there other innovations that are going to happen? No question about it. I think one of the things that always has stuck with me, and I remember reading or hearing when Steve Jobs said it, he said, if I don't cannibalize myself, someone else will. And he had said that when he had come up with the iPhone, and somebody had asked him about, well, you have the iPhone now, it plays music, isn't that going to cannibalize your sales of the iPod? And that's when he said it, because what he recognized is that as technology moves forward, that companies have to evolve with it. And there's, of course, always the instinct to want to protect what we know, to protect what we've done, but what we have to also embrace innovation, because that's how we move our industry forward. So what I'd like to have is I want all of you, as many of you as you like, to kind of partner with me in this, to help me, to help all of us kind of move the industry forward, for us to, have an ongoing discussion about it. Obviously, what we do, as I said earlier, seems potentially a little threatening, a little scary, whatever. I'm not saying that every kiosk in the world should or needs to go away. What I'm saying is that the technology that we have brought to the forefront, and we continue to evolve with our point of sale system, with autonomous and semi-autonomous stuff as that's coming online, that what I propose is that let's start moving the industry forward with this. Let's take the next step. Let's look and see where there are good applications where we can start moving. It's like anything. We didn't go all of a sudden to kiosks and electronics and digital load cells. All of this stuff didn't happen overnight. There's, we transition. So I'm really happy that I've had the opportunity to talk to all of you today to kind of lay out what we've invented, what we propose, and how we want to move forward. And I will be very, very happy to take any questions. Please, if you spot things that you say, oh, can you do that? Can you do, oh, you can't do it? Give me the question. I'm ready because as I said, we don't have all the answers to everything. I love getting the tough questions. I love being able to think about, what we can do better and where we might have holes. So I want to thank everyone for having me today and listening to what I have to say. And please, any questions?
Barry? Oh, so you can't see my hand, but this is Aaron from Wake Test. It's a two-part question.
Sure.
Obviously, we have mobile data drops that happen quite frequently. It's not an unusual event
Yeah.
to have cellular service, especially
Yeah.
data, especially in the world of 5G, what seems to barely work anymore. So you have holes in your data network sometimes. And how do you handle when there's a data drop?
Yeah.
And just say you started the process, you start the way, you have the app on your phone, it's something you use frequently, but you go to the scale and suddenly you're not connected. What do you do in that?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question, which we actually encountered also in the fleet management software as well. So what we've done is we use what we call a store and forward mechanism. So we will store the data on the phone, right? And then or on the tablet or whatever, and then when we resync back up to the internet, we will sync the tickets back up to the internet. Now, what we have been telling people lately, which is I think a really great and cost-effective solution, is at a site to have the ability to have something like Starlink, right, as a backup type of internet, or even primary internet, if you will, at that site. So what we can do basically is to say we're on the network. A certain time goes by, we've detected that we've lost connectivity. If you have Starlink, for example, we can then dynamically roll over and then use the quote-unquote backup internet until the other one is there. And at the same time, also storing the data on the mobile device so that we can forward it, when resync happens. But it's a great question and something we think a ton about.
The second part of that question would be, so if that is a network that you can join near the scale, that means you're providing service for that, what about pre-collecting a wayment and then the finished wayment, like collecting data, where you're pulling something out of the, say a geofence location where you're gathering from a field, or you're gathering from a trailer, or a mine site, or whatever you're gathering for, and then you're actually finishing that at the capture wait sequence of your workflow.
Okay.
And then, of course, you have data. So can you pre-collect data? I understood that you'd like to have this already set up before you began. But
Right. So when you say pre-collect data, you mean like not being on the scale? Or
that's
you mean
correct. Pre-collect data before you get to the scale.
Oh, okay. So in other words, do the workflow, and then once you're on the scale, grab the weight and kind of complete the ticket at that point, that's what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
that's correct.
Okay. We don't do that now. It's a really cool idea, which now you gave me something to think about on the plane tomorrow. But no, it's actually it's a really interesting idea, and no, we don't do that currently. Oh, you know what? I realized we also we were going to play just a quick 30-second video of actually showing you how this actually works. So. So that was recorded. That was recorded at a customer site in Houston at a large multimodal port facility. And what we're helping them do is to take weighment times down from 5 to 10 minutes to 30 to 60 seconds. And so you got this. That was actually done a few weeks ago down in Houston. So did I answer your question? Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yep.
So the truck driver was entering quite a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, most truck drivers have phones that are about as big as this coffee cup. And it's easy to make mistakes. You
Yeah.
do it all the time.
Yeah.
What's the answer that you want to call if he enters
Yep.
incorrect information?
Okay, so great question. So a couple of things about that. So first of all, if they're entering the information, they're entering their information anyway, right? So if they're doing it on a kiosk, for example, maybe there is some touch screen, maybe there are some special keys or whatever, but the same touch screen they have available to them on the tablet. In addition, when the workflow is being designed, the scale owner can put data validations on it. So they can say, for example, this field you can only type in, you can only have like date information, in which case we'll give them like a date picker like you'd see scroll through dates, so they can't type in data. Or if you want them to pick a material, so you can load the data into the virtual kiosk so they can just swipe through the material that they're supposed to pick up. So what we do is, now there are cases where they have to actually type in info, so maybe they have to type in their truck ID, but even in that case, if you've loaded, and you're allowed to, you can load your truck information into our database, and we'll tell the driver, hey, which one of these trucks are you driving? And they tap the one they want, so that even avoids the issue of truck ID information. But if all fails, and the fat thumb problem happens, then you can always go and the ticket can be voided and canceled, and they could potentially start again. But what's really key about that, and this is again the discipline that comes from the financial services world, is that we keep very, very careful audit trails. So if somebody does void or cancel a ticket, we don't actually really get rid of it. It's there with a trail of who did it, when they did it, and so forth. But the first thing is to make sure that the user interface is such that the data, we make sure that the data is validated, and we stop the driver from putting in bad data to begin with. Does that make sense?
How long can you track that audit trail you just spoke about?
As long as, you mean how many cancels, or for how long period of time?
For a period of time.
Basically, the data stays there forever. We don't get rid of it. So that's the other thing, is since it's in the cloud, since data storage is pretty inexpensive, we can basically keep the data essentially forever. So you can go and look at it and trace it and whenever you want. You don't have to, so any of those regulations that involve keep the data for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever. And of course, our software is all NTEP certified. We're in fact going to Columbus, I think May 15th, to certify the point of sale system. It's already certified for single platform, multi-platform, and tears as well. So it's of course all legal for trade.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So Again,
Yep.
an internal use for this would be somebody who has a client list, let's say. Or is this something that somebody, not an end user, but somebody who can, not the end user, who's doing the weighing, but the actual company that's tracking it, like having pre-stored data that they can pull from?
So.
Like account numbers,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier in the presentation. So if you have your account information, so we can do that in a couple of ways. So if you want to, you can import data into our system with CSV or Excel files, and we can take it and store it, and we have the ability, you can set up your own accounts. If, on the other hand, you basically want us to, you have your accounts sitting in whatever your favorite ERP is, and you want us to just use an API to talk to you, we'll do that too. Okay. So that's, yeah, again, it's the whole playing nice in the sandbox thing. Yeah.
Do you have an option for like a browser terminal rather than an app if somebody who's going to be not a very often user, who doesn't want to actually download an app onto their phone? Can they just use like a web?
Yeah, okay, so you're talking about from the driver perspective or from the scale owner perspective? From the driver. Okay.
So you have somebody that only goes across
Yeah.
the field once every 4 months.
Yeah, okay, yeah, so the answer is yes. So what we have is we have, I don't know, I won't mention their names because they're sitting in this room, had suggested that we do that very thing. So you can put the, what's called the tablet kiosk mode. So in this case, what we will do is that if the driver, if you want to have, a device like, at a scale house or somebody to use, you can do it so that you can do what we call one-time weighment. So the driver, if they don't want to download the app and they insist that, well, I only have a flip phone or whatever, which we don't believe, but even if they did, so you can actually have a thing where it's like going up to, like a food kiosk, and they can put their email and phone number in, and it'll take them through the workflow and store all the data in the same exact way, in the same exact place, even be able to take credit card information or specify, virtual wallet, all of that stuff. So for those kind of one-time users, that's how they do it. In terms of if the person has the mobile device in the truck, then they can then downloading the app and signing up is really nothing more than you just download it. Takes whatever, 30 seconds, a minute. You put your username in, you put your phone number in, company in, and that's it. And if you're going to be involved in payments, then you have to put paying information in. And that's, by the way, another thing that I'm glad you brought up, because what I didn't mention is that because not only because of our point of sale system allow you to transact any bulk product, we actually have this ability to not only to multi-purpose the scale. So not just by doing custom workflows, you can actually make the scale a pay-to-weigh scale, right? So if you want to just have it for use, and it's let's call it, it's an alternative to our friends at CAT. So if you want to have your scale be able to use to just charge the whatever $10, $12 a weighment, our software will manage all of that, so it can be done in that mode. Drivers can put their payment method in, they'll be charged, we manage all the credit cards. If you do it on account-based billing, we'll do it all, we'll take care of all the accounts, all the invoicing, move the money, auto pay, we do all of that stuff. So that it gives you, and in fact, you can even have the ability to, as we have one customer who wants to not only have the customer pay for the product, but pay for the privilege of going on the scale to get the product. To which I said, that's like going to a deli for a pound of corned beef and being charged for weighing the corned beef. But hey, I just provide the software. But yeah, so that's another great use of it, is that you can have the software being used in a scale being able to be used in lots of ways, all at the same time, and being able to do it, just with these virtual kiosks without having to involve any type of hardware. Any other questions?
So from a transaction perspective,
Yeah.
if you're going like multiple site, like in a pay-away type application, that transaction is stored and the driver's recalling it, or if I'm weighing in at one location and driving 1,000 miles and then weighing in at another location, is that no issue?
Nope, none at all. So if they're weighing in at another scale, so if a pay to weigh, so if they're going to get charged, so what's going to happen is the system basically records the fact that and charges them for the fact that they weighed in at location A, they drove 1,000 miles, whatever it is, went to scale B, and they get the whole transaction. So the driver and the scale owner are able to see, where the weighments happen, the cost, everything that was done, and all the billings. So and in terms of their information, if they're doing it themselves, if they've put their credit card information in, as soon as they got on the scale and they do their weighment, the credit card information's already there, it's already billed. If it's an account, then they typically, we verify that they are a part of the account group. In other words, they work for the company and they've been given the permission to actually use that account, and then then it's billed automatically as well. And of course, yeah, you can do reweighments. We're also, and you can do this, of course, with, as I said, single or multi-platform, so you can do axle weighments as well.
All right.
Eddie? All right. Well, thank you again. I really appreciate all the time and all the great questions.